The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
You see, now, our training as black people from the plantation, when I heard one of the mothers of the dead children, or young people, say, I forgive, what the image that came into my mind was a black person doing formal enslavement who was being whipped and beaten, and the slave master saying, say you forgive me. Say you forgive me. Say you forgive me. Say it again. Say it. You see? That black people were taught under formal slavery. Slave, obey your master. Yes. Turn the other cheek, and you will get your reward in heaven. See, nobody says to Semites of the Jewish religion, forgive the German.
Never say.
Nobody said to the women who said they were raped by Bill Cosby, it's been a long time.
Right.
Don't you think it's time for you to forgive Mr. Cosby? See, nobody says that. So sometimes forgiveness, that rapidity, I forgive. And I tell patients who, you might have a patient who is sexually abused in childhood.
Welcome to Melanated Politics. I'm Eric Clark.
And I'm David Harper, and today we're going to be acknowledging the celebration of Juneteenth this weekend, as well as the 99th anniversary of the race massacre on Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which happened to be the place where President Trump was last night.
So go ahead and call in at 323-293-3375, because today we're going to talk about the authenticity of the American soul regarding unarmed melanated people being hunted and killed by police officers, and what that snake in the grass, Donald Trump, has to say about all of this. The two black men found hanged in Los Angeles County. We'll get to the bottom of that. But first, let's talk about Atlanta, Georgia, and our dear brother, Rayshard Brooks. Mr. Harper.
In Atlanta, it's just another case of policing in our community, policing the black people, that's reminiscent of the slave patrols.
Yes, sir.
Basically, that's what it's reminiscent of. And it's been example after example after example after example, and particularly in the Rayshard Brooks case in Atlanta, if you look at the whole video, you have three men involved. Rayshard Brooks, of course, the deceased. Unfortunately, the brother was murdered. And the two police officers, Garrett Rolfe and Devin Bronson. Devin, and I have to say this, when you look at the video, you look at two police officers that took a different course. Both were involved, but if you look at it and you dissect it, you see where the issue is. Really highlighted.
Yes, sir.
Garrett, just for the audience to know, Garrett Rolfe is the. I want to make sure it's Garrett Rolfe. He's the police officer who shot Rayshard Brooks in the back as he was fleeing. He's the one who shot him, and that particular officer has been accused, I believe, of 12 different. 9 or 12
I believe
different.
It was 11.
11, right. 11 different cases against him or for excessive force. 9 of them have been dismissed. One was a fatal shooting. It's when you look at the video, it breaks your heart because there's no humanity specifically coming from him. And I have to say there was no humanity specifically coming from him. For the other officer, not saying he was perfect, but when he first approached Rayshard Brooks, he came off very sympathetic because Rayshard, his mom passed away the year before. It was his daughter's birthday, and Devin Bronson was he said, okay, he said, oh man, I understand. Okay, just sleep it off. Could just stay in your car, sleep it off. His tone wasn't the best, but it wasn't this adversarialness that you saw from Garrett. And it just goes, this is a case, it breaks your heart so bad because it didn't have to go like that. This man was a father, and on today is Father's Day. It was supposed to be Father's Day for Rayshard Brooks. Ooh. It's supposed to be Father's Day for Ahmaud Arbery. It's supposed to be Father's Day for George Floyd.
Yes, sir.
It was supposed to be Father's Day for so many of us. And you see a situation that didn't have to go the way it went. It gets into your soul in a different sense. I woke up this morning with phone calls and texts saying Happy Father's Day, talking to my son, talking to my wife, and getting ready for the show. I wanted to watch the video fresh, the whole video fresh, so it was fresh in my mind, and I was holding back tears because all he kept saying was, my daughter's birthday's tomorrow. My daughter's birthday's tomorrow. And he wasn't a threat. He wasn't being belligerent. He was just a man that's a family man that wanted to live and wanted to be with his family. That's all he talked about was his family. And Garrett Rolfe in particular, when you look at the video and you see how he kept asking several questions, I understand that you have to once you find out someone's inebriated, you know he's drunk. Now the question is he a danger?
They had options.
That man was fighting for his life. They say he was resisting for arrest. No, he was fighting for his life.
We'll talk about it on the other side of the video, but right now, let's take a look at the video.
I can just go home. I have my daughters there right.
For 41 minutes and 17 seconds, the district attorney says Rayshard Brooks was cooperative. Police had confronted him after the 27-year-old fell asleep in his car in a Wendy's drive-thru in Atlanta on Friday.
Mr. Brooks, on the night of this incident, was calm. He was cordial.
The DA noted that after Brooks failed a breathalyzer, police failed to tell him he was under arrest, even as they cuffed him.
Put your hands behind your back.
What followed was a 2-minute struggle and chase, where Brooks grabbed a taser, turning to fire at officers, before getting shot twice in the back. The officer's lawyer says the killing was justified, but the DA notes the taser had already been fired twice, rendering it useless.
He did not pose an immediate threat of death or serious physical injury to the officer or officers.
27-year-old Garrett Rolfe is facing 11 charges, including murder. That carries the possibility of life in prison or the death penalty. The DA also says for 2 minutes after Brooks was shot, Rolfe kicked him. A second officer, Devin Brosnan, stood on Brooks's shoulders. Neither followed procedure and offered medical aid.
I don't know what I would have done if I would have seen that for myself.
The new details were too much for Brooks's widow.
But I felt everything that he felt just by hearing what he went through. And it hurt. It hurt really bad.
The family's lawyer says the charge...
Was Rayshard Brooks a threat? Absolutely not. Did Rayshard Brooks deserve to die? Absolutely not. These terrorist officers stood on this man's shoulders and kicked him a few times, according to the district attorney's office.
And to make a correction, as we said before, the district attorney's office, it's 11 counts against Garrett Rolfe on this facing felony murder charges. What I was trying to say before is that he's had 12 complaints prior.
Yes.
Which 9 was dismissed, 1 was a fatal shooting. One of the lawyers, I think the lawyer for Devin Bronson, the one who didn't fire, said the cops, his client Devin did exemplary work.
Yeah, right.
And
yeah, right.
And the issue, the problem with that is that what's your definition of exemplary? Right now, I can't even say the word work. Great work, good work, exemplary. What's your definition of that? If standing over a man who's died, who's been shot in the back, is your definition of that, then you know we're not going to see this a non-starter. And right now, what's going on in Atlanta with the with police officers calling out?
Yes, they've been calling out sick.
They've been calling out sick. So what we're going to see in the coming months, the coming years, is it's going to get worse before it gets better, because you're seeing legit pushback to reform, legit crying out, saying these police officers need to be accounted for, and then you're going to have police officers, having to change their culture, and that's going to start not with not having a chokehold, or it's going to start with, in this situation, when you look at the whole video, because the clip that we showed was in the heat of it. The clip in the beginning, the very beginning, shows the process.
Yes, sir.
And it shows the process of first breaking down, assessing good policing. And I say this because my mom was a deputy sheriff. I have family members who've been in law enforcement. I've been around a lot of cops. You assess the situation, and you don't have time sometimes you have split seconds to assess the situation. And in this particular case with Rayshard Brooks, you see the man just fell asleep. The situation is kind of laid out for you already there. And you assess, okay, because you know what kind of drunk he is. He's not saying he's a drunk, but he was inebriated. You don't know if he's going to be violent, this, that, and the third. Once you assess, okay, he's not violent. He's not being belligerent. He's not putting any harm to anybody. He just fell asleep.
If his name was Chad Smith, would they have said, look, buddy, give me the keys and we'll go ahead and either take you home, exercise another option, allow you to walk home, something that would not have ended in his life being taken in a tragic way. One of the problems is we do not identify in detail what's really going on here. We call these police shootings. We call this police brutality, but in actuality, what this really is, this is genocide and this is terrorism. And once we identify what this really and truly is, then we can continue to take steps forward to see what we can do to get everyone together and collaborate on a 401-year solution. But first, identification is the first issue in all of this.
Hold up real quick. You're saying if his name was Chad Smith?
If his name was Chad Smith.
If his name was Chad Smith, they would take his keys.
Yes.
They would say, look, we're going to drive you home, but first we're going to stop at the Waffle House, get something to eat. Because, they took Dylan Roof when he shot up, Amy Church, the Burger King.
Yes.
So if they could take a killer to Burger King to get something to eat before he had to go to jail, what happens to a drunk name or someone who's not well enough to drive named Chad Smith? It could be Waffle House. They could have another drink afterwards.
But that's just one of the many double standards in the American judicial system. Just one of the many.
Listen, where we are right now is a critical moment, but we can't flinch. We can't hedge. We can't. This legislation that's going to be coming out, I know we're going to get into it a little bit later, but just to kind of talk about it just a little bit now. What comes out of Congress and the White House, and we'll definitely have to wait till Trump is gone, this legislation for not just police reform, the whole criminal justice system,
yes,
is going to be just as big as the voting rights and civil rights.
But we've been saying this since the first show. Black lives don't matter, according to what our eyes have been saying, because we cannot unsee what we have saw now.
True.
These are modern-day slave patrollers. These are, as the teacher, KRS-One once said, the word officer comes from the word overseer. So they're carrying on a tradition. We'll talk about your boy, Donald John Trump, later. I say that facetiously, but we'll talk about your boy, that snake in the grass, Donald Trump, later, because not only Donald Trump, but along with every single member of his current and past administration always say and exclaim on television, there's no such thing as systemic racism within police departments around the United States of America.
That denial is the problem.
But what we just saw with our dear brother Rayshard Brooks, rest in power, the humanity of this young man was not, it didn't mean anything to these two cops. They had his license, they had his license plate, they had the make and model of his vehicle, they knew where this man lived. They could have exercised so many options. That's why I came with the whole Chad Smith analogy. This just did not happen. This has been going on. Cell phone technology and the fact that a lot of people have camera phones is one of the reasons why now we see that black lives do not matter. When we start doing the show, Mr. Harper, I have family members. No, Eric, no, I can't watch that. I can't follow that. You guys are too black. You're complaining too much. It's not that bad. Now it's like Notre Dame. Now it's like, I see what, not us, because it's not about us. It's about a movement. It's about the collaboration with those that came before us, those that are with us now, and those that will come after us. So Rayshard Brooks, rest in power. That young man did not have to die.
No, he didn't. And
the district attorney, it's a war going on right now. Look at the pushback. What is the message behind the actions of the Atlanta police officers calling in sick in unprecedented numbers?
That action.
What is the message behind those actions?
The message is that
they're taking sides. They're picking sides.
They've been picking sides. But here's the thing: there's been a battle within the police force.
Us against them.
It's been that, but there's been a battle, and you've seen it in New York and New Jersey from I don't know if it's correctly titled the Black Police Association or Black Police, the Black police officers, but there's been a internal push and pull with different police forces in the country. And you'll see, just like in Buffalo, you saw when the police officers pushed the 75-year-old dude, and you saw them clapping once the police officers were released, and they were upset. You have you're going to have a upheaval. This is going to happen. You're going to have more police officers get sick, but that's in a lot of ways that's good.
Are they really sick, though?
Of course not. Of course, well, they sick in the head. But
they're sick of people asking them to take responsibility.
They're sick of people asking to take responsibility, and on top of that, they want total immunity. They want total. Washing of their hands, saying, "Hey, this job I felt for my life."
The grand jury,
police unions, all of it, and they see this. They see a change, but here's the thing: there are police officers that have been screaming for this for the longest time, and if you listen to particularly in George Floyd, and I'll be real quick with this one.
Well, they haven't gone viral before. 3 weeks to 1 month ago, there have been some. I will say that there have been some that have been disciplined and have lost their jobs for speaking out against.
Oh, there's been some that's been fired. They've been fired. They've been fired, or they've been demoted. There's been that, but what's going to happen in between now and the coming elections is going to decide the future of how policing and the criminal justice system is going to be run for years to come and generations to come. And this is a long struggle that melanated people have been having, since we've been here.
But we encourage everyone to go ahead and call in at 323-293-3375 and answer this question. Is it about individual officers? Is it about the system?
It's both. It's both. Because there are a group of officers, a large group of officers that have a mentality that don't look at melanated people as citizens, as equals, or as human beings. And then you have a system that's been set up from day to illustrate that.
Okay, you and I have sons, right? If when we tell our sons, okay, it's a crowd out there. Not everyone in that crowd is good. Most are, a few are not. Should they hang out in that crowd? Absolutely not. The same rules apply to everything with respect to the laws of common sense and the laws of the universe. Donald Trump, he always says there's a few bad apples. As we stated prior at the beginning of the show, one of the biggest issues that I have with this particular Trump administration, obviously I love the fact that they're candid, they speak very honest and openly, so we know who they are as opposed to...
So really, he's your boy. That you just basically stating that. That's when you say your boy down. Basically, what you're saying, you like how they're open and express their mind. So that's really your friend.
Yes, make America white again.
Okay, yeah.
There's my African American.
Yes. All right, now we got that. The audience really knows the truth now. Okay, so I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Even in the state of South Carolina, there was a point in time where if you were white and you were over the age of 12 years old, you had to literally sign up to be a slave patroller. The slaves that tried to escape and follow the drinking gourd and go towards the north or go to flee to Florida were the brothers and the sisters, the Florida Seminoles in the Seminole War, were they had to make certain they had a system, which is now called the police, but they were slave patrollers then. So not only was the intent of the slave patrollers to continue to manifest free labor, which built this country off the backs, since this is Juneteenth weekend, and happy Juneteenth to all my brothers and sisters, not only the United States, Texas, but also around the globe. Also, to put in mind the terror and the probability of one not attempting to escape if they saw one of their brothers or sisters being terrorized because they had attempted to escape prior. So that was the intent of the slave patrollers. That was the intent of the officers, the overseers. Not only after that, now we go to Reconstruction, protect white folk property. Okay, the black codes, the black laws, who enforced these? The cops, the police. Now we have these prisons that they profit off of the prisons.
Yes, it's a moneymaker.
Betsy DeVos, her brother, et cetera, private-owned prisons, private-owned schools, et cetera, et cetera. But we recall at the beginning of the 1900s when they used to lock brothers up for loitering.
Yes.
That's when you had the chain gangs.
Yes.
Who incarcerated those brothers and locked those brothers up for walking down the street on the chain gangs? It was the cops. So when we turn on our television sets and we see melanated individuals all around the world that have proclaimed an altercation, mostly nonviolent, regarding these cops, it's beyond George Floyd. It's beyond Rayshard Brooks. It's beyond Ahmaud Arbery. It's beyond Tamir Rice. It's beyond Sandra Bland. It's beyond Castillo. It's beyond a lot of these brothers and sisters. It's a system.
It is.
That exercises terrorism and the literal act of genocide. Don't call it police brutality anymore. Call it terrorism and genocide.
And on that same note, there's been several lynchings that's been happening or They haven't been classified as lynchings, but
Yes.
they've been calling them hangings.
Yes.
2 in California, I believe 2 in Texas. 1 in California was on. They said on video.
Yes.
Video shows that was actual suicide. But the other one they're trying to claim is a suicide. But the family saying no, he wasn't depressed. He wasn't suicidal.
Who's going to just walk to the park and hang themselves?
Yeah, and so we're living in a time where these are the. And real quick, it was in Victorville. The brother that allegedly committed suicide. His name is Malcolm. I believe Harsh. He was 38. And Robert Fuller is a 24-year-old in Palmdale. So, and like we said before, Latino man and a black teenager right outside in Texas and outside of Houston were also found hung. But they're trying to say it's depression.
You're from PG County, correct?
PG County, Maryland. That's right.
I'm from Compton, California.
Yes, indeed.
Welcome back to Los Angeles, bro.
Yes, LA, yes. I'm on the west side.
One thing about Los Angeles County, especially Victorville, Palmdale, there's a high population of Klan, skinheads, neo-Nazis, white nationalist groups like that. Those of us that are from here, that are from Los Angeles, LA County, they're also in Orange County. Where does Trump go to?
Orange County.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
So that's why we're not buying it out here on the West Coast. That's why we're not buying it in Victorville. That's why we're not buying it in Palmdale. And that's why we bring these brothers' names up so we can make certain that they live forever. And we do seek justice, or some of us call just us.
Now, quick question. Do you think any legitimate criminal justice reform is stating skinheads, affiliating to skinheads, KKK, and as terror groups?
No.
Do you think...
They haven't even classified the KKK as a terrorist organization.
No, but what I'm trying to say is, do you think that can be done?
They haven't given you an ice cream cone. You asking for a sundae.
Oh, okay. I know I'm at. Look, everybody deserves a Sunday every now and then, especially when you've been out in the heat. Especially you've been watching your brothers and sisters get killed. I mean, come on. Do you think we're going to have to wait? Do you think this is basically my question? This is the best case scenario. Trump loses the White House. Democrats take over the Senate while holding the House. Do you think? I already see where this is going. Do you think that the Democrats, I'm not going to put the Republicans in there because I'm not sure they will. Do you think the Democrats will put the KKK, skinheads, in affiliate websites, affiliates that play with them as terrorist groups?
No.
And people that look at those.
They had a chance to do it when Obama was in there, when the Democrats had complete control of the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, and they had a Democratic president, served two terms, President Barack Obama. So no, they didn't do it then. They won't do it now. Just like the Klan had political power in the early 1900s. Throughout the 2000s, in the 10s, the 20s, the 30s, 2020, they have it right now. So we underestimate.
And see, that's the thing.
We underestimate these people.
Right. Real quick, Obama came in, but he didn't have political power. There's a difference. He was elected, but he didn't have political power. Right now, the Congressional Black Caucus right now is probably arguably one of the most powerful groups in Congress right now. So what I'm trying to say is, like, yes, Obama, because people talk about this all the time. Yeah. Obama came in, this, that, and the third. He didn't have political power. He had to have a freaking beer summit for speaking the truth. He had to say a beer summit saying police were acting stupidly. He had to make that happen to calm the waters, to make sure he wasn't looking like a radical. He had to do that. He wouldn't have to do that now. If he said police acting stupidly now, dude, he could probably pass anything he wants because he has there's political power.
Yes.
And that's the difference. What I'm trying to say is there's actual political power now. Oh, supposed political power. Do you think it's going to be wielded? And you're saying you don't think it's going to be wielded.
But going back to these brothers that supposedly committed suicide in L.A. County, one in Victorville and the other in Palmdale, let's look at that video and talk about it on the other side, Mr. Harper.
The bodies of Robert Fuller and Malcolm Harsh were discovered hanging from trees in two public venues, 10 days and 50 miles apart, though police say neither death appears to be connected or shows any indication of foul play. Tonight, their shocking deaths are leading to calls for the state attorney general to investigate.
We've been hearing one thing, then we hear another, and we just want to know the truth.
24-year-old Robert Fuller's body was discovered hanging from a tree in a park near Palmdale City Hall. The L.A. County Sheriff's Office first saying the scene appeared to be a suicide, then today deferring the official cause of death. Investigators will now examine the rope and knot to see how it was tied.
And it is our interest to make sure that we leave no rock unturned.
It comes as protesters demand an independent probe and a homicide investigation.
We want truth, we want answers, we demand answers now.
When authorities found Malcolm Harsh's body hanging near a local library and homeless encampment in Victorville, they indicated no signs of foul play. The cause of death still pending, but Harsh's family says this was not a suicide.
I couldn't believe it because I had talked to him a few nights before, and we had made plans to see each other.
The Harsh family also noted the current racial tension and protest in this country, adding the death of a black man found hanging from a tree does not sit well or make sense.
Tonight, California's Attorney General and the FBI getting involved, looking into the death of two black men, raising questions across the country.
So it was Malcolm Harsh, 38-year-old, who was caught, or they were saying not caught on video, but the video showed that he...
the brother in Victorville.
The brother in Victorville showed that he committed suicide.
Also according to his family. So
also according to his family.
That perfectly clear.
For Robert Fuller in Palmdale, the 24-year-old, that's the one that they're going to investigate further. I'm not one that believes in coincidences. You know, I understand that this pandemic has gotten people depressed in some ways. I can acknowledge that. But there's also an awakening right now, a visual awakening of what this country has truly shown the black community, that they now they're showing everybody that policing, criminal justice, everyday people out here working have to face racism in a way that you're seeing live, and to see the young black men hung from wire, rope, whatever it may be, I just don't believe it's a coincidence. And I understand there's a video with Malcolm. I'm not disregarding that. I can't, the one family member that just spoke that said, "Hey, we made plans, this, that, and the third." Everyone's mental state. You can't get into everyone's mental state. But
and also all the other brothers and sisters that were found hanged throughout the United States, not only this year, last year, not only just recently, but anytime that we were not able to mention their names and show videos of what happened to them and what their families had to say, because not only has it been these two young melanated brothers, but there's also been many, many more throughout the United States. So,
and also really quick to kind of let the audience know, Senator Rand Paul, senator from Kentucky, Senator Rand Paul, father's name Ron Paul, is holding up a bill that will
anti-lynching bill.
It's anti-lynching bill. It's anti-lynching bill, and his argument is saying, "Hey, if someone's," I'm paraphrasing, but he said, "I don't want to broaden this bill. If If someone gets into an argument and someone's being pushed and someone can accuse of them being lynched, you know, and then they could be accused of, quote unquote, that anti-lynching bill being a federal crime. Basically, it's BS. Rand Paul is a guy that, you know, is not. He's
a joke.
He's a joke, but really quick, and this I know I say really quick a lot, but I promise I'll be quick with this one. He, in his campaign, when he was campaigning, I don't know if it was his first run for Senate, but it was maybe his re-election in the Senate. He had a mascot or a personality. I think it was a personality called the Confederate Avenger, or the Southern Avenger, whatever it was, and draped in the Confederate flag. So that kind of lets you know like where his mentality is when it comes to when you're talking about being real about changing this country, wanting to keep it the republic that they know it and see it through the eyes of someone who believes in the Confederacy, who deep down inside doesn't want this, you know, as a federal bill, federal law. But hey,
you can just tell when Senator Paul is speaking. You can just tell he just wants to say so bad, the South shall rise again.
Yeah. But, you know, he can say the South can rise again, and then you got outcasts going to scream bombs over Baghdad, and, you know, and anti-aliens and Southern Playalistic. You're going to have people like T.I. rising up. You're going to have who has a podcast. You're going to have Southern politicians like the brother in South Carolina who's running against Lindsey Graham. And actually you have one in Kentucky who's running against Mitch McConnell. So you're going to have a rising in the South, but it's not going to be the same as what they normally feel, normally think. You even got a brother in Mississippi, which was the state with the highest exchanges of slaves running, challenging. So right now you are seeing a South in a rise, but it's not going to be the same South that they see and know. But speaking of your boy Donald Trump, let's go to your boy Donald Trump for a second, because, you know, that dude right there, woo! I watched a little bit of his rally. You know what he said? His rally last night in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You know what your boy said?
What did he say? What did he say?
Man, look, he said, I've done more for the black community in 3 years than Joe Biden has done in 47 years. That's what he said with a straight face, though. He said it with a straight face. Joe Biden's not perfect by any means. By any means, he is a flawed man. Yes, absolutely. He was flawed coming in.
Do you know how loyal you have to be to an individual to sign a piece of paper that says, if I catch corona?
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
I will not sue you.
I will not sue. Yes. He did say that.
That's loyalty.
He's corona.
That's a movement.
That is a movement. And, you know, didn't he do an executive order?
He did an executive order. But also you had Kellyanne, you had this press secretary, just like Sarah Huckabee Sanders, just like you had Sean Spicer, his latest press secretary. She continues the shenanigans. They lie. I mean, Donald Trump, his press secretaries, his administration, if you closed your eyes and turned the television down, I swear to God, you would think you were watching the first 48. That's how much they lie. So let's see what Donald Trump had to say about all of this stuff.
Movement sweeping across America. President Donald Trump backed growing calls for police reform with his own executive order full of modest proposals.
And I will say we've dealt with all of the various departments, and everybody said, it's time. We have to do it.
Trump is calling for the creation of a national database to track officers who use excessive force, restricting the use of chokeholds unless an officer's life is in danger, and adding better training to respond to issues of mental health and addiction. Proposals that come nowhere close to what protesters have demanded as calls to defund police grow louder nationwide.
Americans want law and order. They demand law and order. They may not say it. They may not be talking about it, but that's what they want.
In fact, Trump dismantled many of the police reforms initiated by the Obama administration. Today, he's up against a rare moment of unity in Washington. Democrats and Republicans seem close to finding common ground and could vote on police reform legislation within the next few weeks.
Now is a moment to reach for real, lasting, strong, comprehensive change. We cannot merely make some changes around the margins.
What do we do? In cities across America, where peaceful protests continue, some local officials have adopted even stronger measures. Nashville and Seattle are the latest cities to ban the use of chokeholds. In Atlanta, a city still reeling from the police shooting of Rayshard Brooks, the mayor wants to rewrite the book on officer conduct.
We have to objectively look at de-escalation. That's not very clear in our policies.
In a moment when it seems like change is truly possible, there's growing pressure to make it happen. Jackson Prosco, Global News, Washington.
Okay, so I just...
Americans want law and order and don't even know it. Yeah, and segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. Come on, George Wallace. Go ahead, Mr. Harper.
Okay, yeah. A few things. Trump's executive order really does nothing, and to make it worse, Tim Scott, senator of South Carolina, the only black senator a Republican senator in the Senate, puts out a bill that increases transparency around the use of force, banning chokeholds, which should be just a common thing, by withholding federal grant money. So basically, it's not a written law saying, hey, we ban this. It's a law saying, well, if you do it, we're not going to give you money. That's basically what it's saying. If we do it, you're not going to give you money. The biggest issue that they're having right now in the Senate and with the president, because President Trump has stated that he will not sign a bill that the police union does not agree with. That's number one. Number two,
I wonder which side he's on.
You know what side he's on. He's on the side that was with the exonerate. He's on the side against the exonerated 5 in New York when he put out that article, that headline saying they should go back to jail or they should have the death penalty. Whatever he said, he's on that side. He's been that person. I know America didn't know that person, but I knew that person. There's a lot of black people, particularly on the East Coast, that knew that person. There's a lot of black people been warning about this for the longest time.
Did they not know him, or were they in denial of who he actually was and who he really is?
I think that people were more enthralled, or it was two things that happened. Just to be honest, Hillary Clinton, people didn't like her. They disdained her, which I get it. I understand that, but they didn't. They looked at him as like a joke. They look at him as like, man, if he's president, it's going to be the Apprentice all over again. No, it's not. He is the epitome of
Andrew Jackson.
See, I was going to go back to George Wallace because he's a combination. He's a combination of a George Wallace and a Reagan mixed together. Yes. Like, just truthfully speaking, Reagan was an actor. He was very charismatic. He wasn't as boisterous or combative as Donald Trump is. But Donald Trump is combative, and he does it in a way that entertains his side so much. But people don't realize when you are the president and you can wave a wand, sign a pen, or have basically your foot soldiers, which are the Republican Party,
or have a movement behind you,
or have the movement behind you, you can do real damage.
He has 30 to 35% of the American electorate, no matter what comes out of his mouth. It's a movement. It's loyalty. It's a question of who will represent the highest population determined by race in the United States of America. That's why he said when they come over here, they're bringing the worst. They're bringing drug dealers. They're bringing rapists. Look at the caravan. MS-13 is in the caravan.
He talked about that
Coyotes are in the caravan, et cetera, et cetera. The browning of America has Donald Trump and his followers scared.
And you know what he said?
And that is partially what most of this is all about.
You know what he said last night? Another thing he said last night that really tripped me out was he didn't call it the coronavirus, or
what
or he didn't call it coronavirus. He didn't call it.
He called it the Kung Fu virus.
He called
no disrespect to our
he called the
Asian
Kung
brothers
Fu
and sisters.
virus, and he said the China pandemic or the Chinese pandemic. He is basically the line. He letting you know where he stands.
Well, he was going to have his rally on the day of Juneteenth until he was pressured to move it, and to even have it in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I mean, does this person have to walk up to you and scream, "I hate you, I don't like you," in order for you to figure that out, or can they just show you how they feel about you through their basic actions and what we see every day?
That's not real talk. That's not really the question now when it comes to this election. When it comes to this president, it's going to be the conversation that you're seeing with the generation of white folks saying, "Okay, should a racist or someone who really believes in white supremacy be in the White House?" And I'll give you an example. I was on I have to shout out Deion Johnson, because I was on her show this week, and she had this white brother named Jeff on there who basically saw police. He lives in Richmond, Virginia, or outside of Richmond, Virginia, and he basically saw police pull over some brothers, and he stood there and watched the whole time, just to let the police know that he was there and let the brothers know he was there to help.
Yeah.
And I say that mentality is on the front line in the white community. That's going to be yelling, like the video of the young girl yelling at her parents. The young white girl that was yelling at her parents, saying, "Mom, you're wrong. Dad, you're wrong." In what's going on, and that's the upheaval that you're.
Well, let's go half on some cupcakes for these people, because we still see all these Karens out here that are called in law enforcement for individuals for living while black.
Absolutely.
You know what that is? That is a straight up, let me see your papers, Southern antebellum plantation mentality. That is a South African, show me your papers type of mentality.
You're absolutely right.
These people still think that they are so superior. And you people go back to Africa if you want to complain, or go back to Mexico if you want to complain, or if you don't want to just stand in line and just shut up because there's a few black millionaires and billionaires and stand in line. You don't knock it off.
Okay. Listen, right now, this conversation is going to keep going. And, I see that we have a phone call. So
let's take the call, and we'll go ahead and talk about it on the other side of the phone call. Welcome to Melanated Politics. Thank you for calling in.
Hello. Welcome to Melanated Politics.
Can you hear him?
Hello, caller?
Hang on.
Hold for 1 second.
This is Kevin. Can you hear me?
Oh, hey, Kevin. How's it going? This is Kevin. Kevin, thanks for calling in.
Pretty good. I was listening to the show, insightful as usual. I just like to offer a perspective that maybe they could just create some thought.
Okay.
In terms of what you mentioned about the two young men found hung in various locations in Southern California, you got to look at it in perspective when we look at this Klan situation. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but I'm like you, David. I don't believe in coincidence.
Right.
And you got to look at the Klan infrastructure in perspective. Number one, they've known historically to recruit from military and law enforcement agencies, which are people who have knowledge of weapons and use of weapons and access to it. Not to spread a conspiracy, but that's a thought to consider. And number two, look at the backlash to the Black Lives Matter movement as a situation that could possibly foster this kind of behavior. And number three, look at the Charlottesville Tiki Torch types who have just disappeared off the scene.
Have they really disappeared?
You say that they wouldn't have underlying behavior in this regard. That's just a consideration.
Kevin, you're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right in that. I'm sorry, I interrupted your thought. Go ahead.
No, I was going to move on to another topic, and you could just respond to it. And second of all, when we talk about police reform, I think what the Congressional Black Caucus and legislative entities need to look at They need to address police behavior and law enforcement and all that as domestic terrorism. Because if you say, in perspective, look at how so-called Al-Qaeda was addressed after 9/11 when it came to the Patriot Act and everything here. All aspects of foreign terrorism, as you would call it, were addressed in those laws. And that's what domestic terrorist laws will have to do. It would have to be just as comprehensive. It'll have to address police behavior. It'll have to address terrorist organizations. It'll have to address recruitment. And it'll also have to put people under the same watchful eye that supposedly Middle Eastern terrorist groups were done. You will have to have that degree of comprehensiveness in legislation. And last of all, I'd just like to make a comment about that clown in the White House. This is a guy who said he made Juneteenth famous. So with that, I just change my TV to a sitcom and look at something on the same level. I don't even really address him. But he said anything that can rally his base. And I would even call that a movement, David. I would call that a cult. Because if you're willing to risk your health and your life, it's just like the Jim Jones thing.
You know, you're right.
I need to get someone to love
contemporary version of it. So I wouldn't even give it the aspects of a movement. It's nothing short of a cult.
You're absolutely right about that.
That's what I have to say about today's points.
Kevin, thank you so much. As always, we appreciate your thoughts, and your opinions are greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. And, thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of the show. And we definitely going to keep this conversation going. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good one.
You have a good one, too.
Brother.
I'm sorry. Just going to adjust my seat real quick. Kind of things got kind of hectic. Talking about all this... all these topics kind of
looking at the news every day, especially after the most recent terrorist act by the Atlanta Police Department on our dear brother, Mr. Brooks. We still see people out in the streets. We still see people out there in the streets. I believe it's the 16th or 17th day that Americans and good-minded, good-hearted individuals around the globe have been out there protesting because of George Floyd, the death of George Floyd, the lynching of George Floyd that we all saw with our own eyes. Now, is there a conspiracy behind standing up for black people in America? We have seen, we saw with our own eyes just recently, corporations have dropped Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben Rice, Lady Antebellum, changed her name to Lady A. Shout out to the blues singer who reached an understanding with Lady Antebellum, who just recently changed her name to Lady A. There's been other celebrities that made racist or at least, to say the least, racially insensitive comments that has gotten them fired. And they've gotten in hot water, and their reputations have suffered as a result of that. So where are we going with this? Will the needle be moved as a result of the protest? After you apologize, after you acknowledge something, there has to be actions. If you get caught cheating, you can say, I love you, I'll never do it again. You can send flowers up to the job. You can take her to the Cheesecake Factory on your Father's Day.
Thanks to my wife.
But if you don't stop your cheating ways, sir.
Why are you throwing that energy my way, dude? Why are you throwing that energy my way?
My point is, every single melanated life is just as important as the next one. Every sister's life, every brother's life. As we said to Mr. Arbery, to our sister Breonna Taylor.
Yeah.
To our brother George Floyd. To our brother Mr. Brooks. So we welcome every American soul and every soul across this earth to hold our hand with respect to humanity, because it's that important and it's that serious. But what is the conspiracy behind standing up for black people in America? Some say that this is long overdue. People should have stood up a long time ago. We've all been paying attention to this stuff, my brother. Melanated actors and actresses who have stood up have paid the price. They have suffered obtaining new roles. Teachers have been fired. Like you said, African-American cops, male and female, have been fired, have been disciplined for speaking out against what they clearly see as racism and bigotry within their own department that they see all the time. So where are we going with this? The conspiracy behind standing up for people, for black folk in America. Black lives don't matter. The Black Lives Matter movement has taken off just way past the heavens. And for most Americans and most people around the world, that's good. But what do you think about all of this, Mr. Harper, before we...
I think it's a couple things. I'll just break it down like this. I was talking to my cousin yesterday, and we were having this exact conversation. I said there's different levels of racism in the sense of there's the racists like that want to see us dead.
Yes.
And then there's the racists who are comfortable with us owning homes and having wealth quality. And then there's the racists like, look, I want you to do well. I want you to live near me, be by me, or be where I work. And when you're talking about, when you mention like Hollywood and what Hollywood's been doing and people being called out, Hollywood was never built for black people. It just hasn't.
America was never built.
America was never built for black people.
America was never built for black people.
You're talking about dismantling. To me, you're talking about dismantling
It was built by us, but not for us.
Exactly. So you're talking about dismantling a way of thought, a way of living, a way of being that's existed from the exception of this country, which is going to take a long time. It's going to take work, but it starts to me with the criminal justice.
As a matter of fact, as far as Hollywood and taking responsibility, let's show that video.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility for every unchecked moment.
For every time it was easier to ignore than to call it out for what it was.
Every not so funny joke. Every unfair stereotype.
Every blatant injustice, no matter how big or small.
Every time I remained silent.
Every time I explained away police brutality. Or turned a blind eye.
I take responsibility. Black people are being slaughtered in the streets, killed in their own homes. These are our brothers and sisters,
our friends, our family. We are done watching them die. We are no longer bystanders. We will not be idle. Enough is enough.
I will no longer allow an unchecked moment. I will no longer allow racist, hurtful words, jokes, stereotypes, no matter how big or small, to be uttered in my presence.
I will not turn a blind eye. Going for a jog should not be a death sentence. Sleeping in your own home should not be a death sentence.
Playing video games with your nephew should not be a death sentence.
Shopping in a store should not be a death sentence. Business as usual should not be life-threatening. I stand against hate.
I stand against hate.
I stand against hate.
I stand against hate.
I will stand against hate in love. I will make my presence known.
And killer cops must be prosecuted. They are murderers. We can turn the tide. It is time to take responsibility. Call out hate, step up, and take action.
The only thing that we will accept is reparations. Elizabeth Taylor actually gave George Floyd's daughter some of her own personal Disney stock.
It's Barbara Streisand.
Barbara Streisand, pardon me. Barbara Streisand. I'm thinking about Elizabeth Taylor.
That's okay.
Barbara Streisand.
That's all right, man. That's all right, man.
Wonderful. What a heartfelt, soul to soul, straight from her kindred spirit Barbra Streisand gave George Floyd's daughter some of her own personal Disney stock. So the only thing that will suffice is reparations. If your car needs a new motor, don't go get an oil change.
It's got to be more than reparations. It's got to be reparations and some. Reparations is not. I mean, don't get me wrong. We need it. That's necessity. But it's like I was having this debate with another brother. I'm like, yo, we need reparations, yes, but it goes deeper than that. It has to be a change in this, a legit change. The ideals of this country has to reach everybody.
Yes, sir.
And reparations is a part of that, but the other part of it is like change. That's it.
When you close your eyes, you see black. When you're in your mother's womb, you see black. Black represents perfection. Black represents authority. That's why you see people that have positions of authority via judges, via cops. They wear black or some type of dark color. So no matter how much you love us, like us, or don't like us, or hate us, or etc., when you close your eyes, all you see is black. You cannot run from us. Melanated sisters and brothers, the essence of color, politics, war without bloodshed. Melanated politics would like to give a special shout out to every single individual that has been with us since day one, since our first show. Special shout out to all of you individuals. On behalf of my brother, David Harper, we're going to leave you with one of the greatest prophets ever, El-Haj Malik, El-Shabazz, Malcolm X. In the United States Constitution, it talks about that black people are 3/5 of a man. So let's go back to the foundation of what this is all about, and we'll leave you with Malcolm X. Thank you so much for watching Melanated Politics. We're out. Let's check out Malcolm X. We'll leave you with this great man.
American laws are not the black man's laws.
Well, the laws here in America were made by white people for the benefit of white people. The Constitution was written by whites for the benefit of whites. It was never written for the benefit of blacks. And when you read the Constitution, I think in Article 1, Section 2, or Section 1, Article 1, one of the two, and it's in the Constitution, it says that it classifies black people as 3/5 of a man. 3/5 of a man, subhuman, less than a human being. It relegates us to the level of cattle, hogs, chickens, cows, a commodity that could be bought and sold at the will of the master. No, it was written by whites for the benefit of whites and to the detriment of blacks. And when a black man stands up talking about his constitutional rights, he's out of his mind. So the only solution is separation. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that this can be brought about simply by letting our people be exposed to the truth about ourselves, about the white man, about our history and our condition in this country. And once we are exposed to the complete truth about things as they actually exist in this country, the masses of black people will choose complete separation from this entire system, political system, economic system, social system, and whatever other aspect or description or adjective you want to attach to it. Let us go back home to our own people, live among our own kind, and solve our own problems ourselves. And if the white man doesn't want us to go back to our own people and live in our own country, then since we can't get along together in peace on this country with white people, let us separate part of this continent, migrate to that separate territory, let the government give us everything we need to establish our own independent economic system and society, and thereby we'll be able to solve our own problems ourselves and prove that we are human beings and a part of the human family and can do for ourselves what other humans have done for themselves. And then we'll be able to stop blaming the white man for what he has done and stop begging the white man to solve our problems. We'll be able to solve our problems ourselves.